The credit card alert hit my phone at 2:47 a.m. Elena had just spent $800 at some boutique hotel downtown while supposedly visiting her sick mother 3 states away. I stared at the glowing screen in our dark bedroom, listening to her breathe beside me, and felt something cold settle in my chest like winter fog. My name is Jack Morrison. I fix cars for a living, come home with grease under my fingernails, and until this moment, I thought my biggest problem was Elena's growing embarrassment about introducing me to her lawyer friends. Turns out, I was thinking way too small. I slipped out of bed and padded to the kitchen, phone in hand. Our joint account showed more interesting purchases from the last week: jewelry store, lingerie boutique, expensive restaurant, all local. All while she was supposedly in Ohio, caring for her dying mother. The coffee maker gurgled to life as I scrolled through more evidence of my wife's creativity. Elena had always been the smart one, the ambitious one, the one destined for bigger things than our cramped house in this dying New England mill town. I just never figured she'd be smart enough to lie this badly. "You're up early!" Elena's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway wearing the silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas, looking perfectly composed for someone who'd supposedly driven all night from a deathbed vigil. "Couldn't sleep," I said, pocketing my phone. "How's your mother?" "Touch and go. The doctors aren't sure she'll make it through the week." Elena moved to the coffee maker, not quite meeting my eyes. I should probably head back today. "That's rough. Which hospital again?" For just a second she hesitated. "St. Mary's, the one on 5th Street. I nodded and sipped my coffee, tasting nothing. Elena had never been good at lying, which made this whole performance even more insulting. St. Mary's had closed 3 years ago. After she left for her return trip, I called my buddy Derek at his auto shop. Derek had known me since high school, back when I could still throw a decent punch, and Elena was just the smart girl who helped me pass chemistry. "Jack, you sound like hell," Derek said when I walked into his garage an hour later. "Elena's cheating on me." Derek set down his wrench and wiped his hands on a greasy rag. "You sure?" I showed him the credit card statements, the hotel charges, the timeline that made no sense. Derek listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "So what's the plan?" he asked finally. "I'm still working on that part." Derek grinned, and for a moment, he looked like the kid who'd helped me toilet paper the principal's house senior year. "Good thing you came to the right place." That evening, I drove past the Marriott downtown. Elena's Honda sat in the parking lot next to a black BMW I recognized from the law firm's parking garage. The BMW belonged to Chad Winters, the golden boy associate who'd joined Elena's firm 6 months ago, the same Chad who was married to a sweet kindergarten teacher named Amy. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, engine running, watching their hotel room window. The light was on. Shadows moved behind the curtains. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "Mom's stable tonight, staying another day to be sure. Love you." I typed back, "Love you too. Take care of yourself." Then I drove home and started planning. The next morning I stopped by Rosie's Diner on Main Street. Rosie had been serving coffee and gossip to this town for 30 years, and her waitress, Mrs. Kowalski, knew everyone's business before they did. "Jack Morrison," Mrs. K called out as I slid into a corner booth. "Haven't seen you in weeks. How's that pretty wife of yours?" "Oh, you know Elena. Working hard, climbing that ladder. She's actually out of town right now, taking care of some important business." Mrs. K poured my coffee with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. "Important business, huh? Well, good for her. Though I have to say, I saw her having lunch with that handsome young lawyer yesterday. What's his name? Chad something?" "Chad Winters," I said helpfully. "Yeah, they work together. Probably discussing a case." "Probably." Mrs. K's eyes gleamed with the particular joy of someone who'd just received confirmation of a juicy suspicion. They looked very focused on their work. I left a generous tip and drove to work, knowing that by noon, half the town would be discussing Elena's business lunch with considerable interest. Derek was waiting for me with a shit-eating grin and a cup of coffee that could strip paint. "So," he said, "I did some research on your boy Chad. Turns out he's got some interesting habits. Such as he's been seen around town with at least 2 other women in the past month. And his wife Amy, sweet little Amy who teaches first grade, she has no idea." I felt something dark and satisfied unfurl in my chest. "Is that so?" "That's so. And Jack, I think it's time we leveled the playing field." That afternoon, I created an anonymous email account and sent Amy Winters a simple message. "Your husband is having an affair with Elena Morrison from his law firm. Check the Marriott downtown, room 237, tonight around 8 p.m. I'm sorry you have to find out this way." I included screenshots of the credit card charges and a photo I'd taken of Chad's BMW in the hotel parking lot. Then I went home and waited. Elena returned the next evening, full of stories about her mother's miraculous recovery and the long, exhausting hours at the hospital. She hugged me tight and told me how much she'd missed me, how grateful she was to have such an understanding husband. "I'm just glad your mom's okay," I said into her hair, breathing in the scent of expensive hotel shampoo. It must have been terrible seeing her so sick. "It was, but she's a fighter, you know. The doctors say she should make a full recovery." "That's wonderful news. We should send flowers." Elena stiffened slightly in my arms. "Oh, she's not accepting visitors yet. Still too weak." "Of course, well, maybe next week." That night, as Elena slept beside me, I got a text from an unknown number. "Thank you. You saved me years of lies. A friend." Amy had found them. The next morning, Elena left for work, looking confident and polished in her power suit and heels. She kissed me goodbye and promised to be home by 6 for dinner. She walked in at 5:30, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. "Rough day?" I asked, not looking up from the newspaper. "Chad's wife left him," Elena said quietly. "She threw all his clothes on the front lawn and changed the locks. Apparently someone told her about his affairs." "That's terrible, poor Amy." "Jack, there's something I need to tell you." I finally looked up, arranging my expression into concerned confusion. "What's wrong?" Elena sat down across from me, her hands shaking slightly. "I haven't been completely honest with you. About my trips, about work, about a lot of things." "Elena, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "I've been having an affair with Chad." "I'm so sorry, Jack. I never meant for it to happen, and I never meant for you to get hurt." I stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch until she started to squirm. "How long?" I asked finally. 3 months, Jack, please let me explain." 3 months. I folded the newspaper carefully and set it aside. "So when you were visiting your sick mother, I was with Chad. I know how it sounds, I know how awful it is, but Jack, I think I love him." "You think you love him?" "I do love him, and I think we should get divorced." I nodded slowly, as if processing this information for the first time. "I see. And what about Chad's wife? Does she factor into this grand romance?" Elena flinched. "That's over now. Amy found out about everything and left him. Chad says he's ready to start fresh with me." "How convenient for Chad." "Jack, please don't be like this. I know you're hurt, and you have every right to be angry, but..." "But what, Elena? But you expect me to just smile and wish you well? Pack up my things and move out of the house that's in your name so you and Chad can play house? It doesn't have to be ugly." I laughed, and the sound surprised both of us. "Ugly?" "Elena, you've been lying to me for 3 months. You've been spending our money on hotel rooms and lingerie for another man. You've made me look like a fool in front of the entire town. And you're worried about things getting ugly? I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me. And now you want me to just, what? Disappear quietly so you don't have to feel guilty about it?" Elena's lawyer instincts kicked in, and her expression hardened. "Jack, be reasonable. We both know this marriage hasn't been working for a long time. We want different things. We're different people." "You're right," I said, standing up. "We are different people. You're the kind of person who lies and cheats and expects the world to accommodate your choices. And I'm the kind of person who doesn't forget when someone tries to make a fool of me. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled, and Elena actually took a step back. It means, sweetheart, that you picked the wrong husband to underestimate. Over the next week, I watched Elena and Chad try to navigate their new reality. Chad was staying in a motel on the outskirts of town, his reputation in shambles, his wife's divorce lawyer circling like a shark. Elena was fielding whispers and pointed looks at work, her professional credibility damaged by association. But I wasn't done yet. Derek and I spent our evenings at Murphy's Bar, the kind of place where the town's working class gathered to drink beer and solve the world's problems. It was also where information flowed like cheap whiskey, and where a well-placed comment could become gospel truth by morning. Shame about Elena Morrison, I said to no one in particular, loud enough for the regulars to hear. I mean, I knew she was ambitious, but I never thought she'd throw away her marriage for a guy who cheats on his wife. That's rough, Jack, said Tommy Brennan, a guy who worked construction and had a mouth bigger than the Grand Canyon. But maybe you're better off without her. Maybe, though I have to wonder what else she's been lying about. I mean, if she can lie to me for 3 months about where she's spending our money, what else has she been hiding? The seed was planted. Within days, rumors were swirling about Elena's ethics, her honesty, her fitness to practice law. The partners at her firm started asking uncomfortable questions about her recent cases, her billing practices, her judgment. Chad, meanwhile, was discovering that his reputation as a serial cheater made him unemployable at every law firm within 50 miles. His wife's divorce settlement was going to cost him everything he'd saved, and his new relationship with Elena was looking less like true love and more like mutual desperation. But my masterpiece was still to come. The annual Founders' Day charity gala was the social event of the year in our little town. Elena had been looking forward to it for months, seeing it as her chance to rehabilitate her image and show everyone that she and Chad were a respectable couple, not just two cheaters who'd found each other. She bought a new dress, spent hours at the salon, and arrived at the community center on Chad's arm, looking like she owned the world. I was waiting for them. Jack? Elena stopped dead when she saw me standing by the entrance in my best suit. What are you doing here? Same thing as everyone else, I said pleasantly. Supporting local charities. Though I have to admit, I'm especially excited about tonight's entertainment. Entertainment? Chad spoke for the first time, his voice tight with suspicion. Oh, didn't you hear? I volunteered to help with the audio-visual setup. Made sure everything would work perfectly for the evening's presentations. Elena's face went pale. Jack, what did you do? Me? Nothing illegal, I assure you. Though I think you'll find tonight's program very illuminating. The evening proceeded normally through dinner and the usual speeches. Elena and Chad sat at a prominent table, trying to look comfortable under the weight of curious stares and whispered conversations. Elena kept glancing at me, but I just smiled and raised my beer bottle in a friendly toast. Finally, Mayor Davidson took the stage to introduce the evening's keynote speaker. But instead of the expected presentation about local economic development, the projection screen lit up with a very different kind of slideshow. The first image was Elena and Chad kissing in the hotel parking lot. The second was Chad's BMW parked outside the Marriott. The third was a screenshot of Elena's credit card statement, showing charges for lingerie and jewelry on the same days she was supposedly caring for her dying mother. The room went dead silent. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, standing up and raising my voice to carry across the stunned crowd, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my wife Elena and her boyfriend Chad for providing tonight's entertainment. As you can see, they've been very busy these past few months, working hard on their relationship while Elena told me she was taking care of family emergencies. Elena shot to her feet. Jack, stop this right now! Stop what? Telling the truth? I thought you'd appreciate that, being a lawyer and all. Though I suppose honesty hasn't been your strong suit lately. Chad grabbed Elena's arm. We're leaving! Oh, but you'll miss the best part, I called after them as they headed for the exit. I was just getting to the part about Chad's other girlfriends. Did you know about them, Elena? Or did he tell you that you were the only one? Elena stopped walking. She turned slowly to face Chad, whose expression had gone from angry to panicked. "What other girlfriends?" she asked quietly. "Elena, don't listen to him. He's just trying to—" "What other girlfriends, Chad?" The room was watching like spectators at a tennis match, heads turning back and forth between the players. "Well," I said helpfully, "there's Jessica from the bank, and that paralegal from the firm across town. Oh, and let's not forget the bartender from that place on 5th Street. Chad's been a very busy man." Elena's face went through several interesting color changes before settling on a shade of white that matched her dress. "Is that true?" she whispered. Chad looked around the room full of staring faces and made the worst possible choice. He ran. Elena watched him go, then turned back to me with tears streaming down her cheeks. "You bastard," she said. "You planned all of this." "I planned to tell the truth," I replied. "Everything else was just you and Chad being exactly who you are." Elena looked around the room at the faces of everyone she'd hoped to impress, everyone whose respect she'd wanted to earn. Instead, she saw pity, disgust, and barely concealed satisfaction at her downfall. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You know what, Elena? I really am." She left without another word, her designer heels clicking across the floor like a countdown timer. The room stayed silent for another moment, then gradually conversation resumed. But now, instead of whispers about Elena's affair, people were talking about what they'd just witnessed, about justice served and chickens coming home to roost. Derek appeared at my elbow with 2 beers. "Well," he said, "that was something." "That was everything. What happens now?" I looked around the room at the faces of my neighbors, my co-workers, the people who'd watched Elena climb her ladder and look down on the rest of us. They were looking at me differently now, with something that might have been respect. Now Elena and Chad get to live with the consequences of their choices, and I get to start over without any illusions about who I married. "And if Elena tries to take you to the cleaners in the divorce?" I smiled and pulled out my phone, scrolling to a folder labeled Insurance. It contained screenshots of Elena's credit card statements, photos of her and Chad together, and recorded conversations where she'd lied about her whereabouts. "Let her try. I've got everything I need to make sure the divorce goes exactly the way it should." Derek clinked his beer bottle against mine. "To new beginnings. To getting even." 3 months later, Elena and Chad were both unemployed, their reputations in ruins, their relationship destroyed by mutual recriminations and the weight of their own lies. Elena moved back in with her parents in Ohio, and Chad left town entirely, looking for somewhere his name wasn't synonymous with betrayal. I kept the house, most of our assets, and my dignity. More importantly, I kept the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the underdog wins not by playing fair, but by playing smarter. Elena had wanted a villain. She got one, and I never wore the mask better.